Welcome to the LivXplore podcast. If you like what you hear, please hit like and subscribe. Welcome, everyone, to the Housing Signal podcast brought to you by LivXplore. I am your co-host, Sean Payne.
I'm your co-host, Isaiah Chass, and today we're going to talk about the trust and probate sale process. Sean, you've been working this field for a long time. Let's start with, how'd you start with this? It's a specialized niche, so not everyone is involved in it.
Yeah, no, I came out of college, I had a couple knee surgeries, but I was still fairly athletic. And so when an ambulance went by, I actually was quite a bit quicker than most of the agents in real estate at the time. So I could chase that ambulance quicker that way. No, I'm joking. I say that just because often I think probates and trusts has that stigma of being kind of like the ambulance chaser. So I just want to embrace that. So no,
sure.
that's not how I got into it at all. I got into it because I partnered with someone that had experience in probate and trust sales, and he brought me on board and kind of taught me the process that way. And so I said, "Oh, this is cool, and why not go out and make other connections, mainly with attorneys and private fiduciaries." So I just kind of went out and started growing my business that way. It was during the foreclosure crisis. I didn't like short sales, and breaking into the REO market was difficult. I had a few of them, but it was difficult. There was certain agents had hundreds of them literally. So it was actually a really good steady field, because no matter what the market is, there'll unfortunately be probates and trusts that way. So.
Sure. How does that process differ from, say, a traditional sale? There's a lot of nuances to it, but what else does that involve than, a typical sale of someone just selling their house to move somewhere else? Yeah,
so you approach it often, you're dealing whether it's whether it is a trust or a probate. You're often dealing with heirs, beneficiaries, people that don't have intimate knowledge of the property. So their disclosures are going to be limited, but you still have to do your due diligence on the property and try to figure out what's going on, things of that nature that way. So I would say that there's just a little bit more attention to detail, and maybe that's part of the reason why I like it. There's a little bit more mystery there that you have to uncover that way.
Totally.
Some agents don't like that, some do. So.
And then with that process, a lot of times it can take a lot longer, especially if there's court confirmation required. How long would a typical process for a probate sale last?
So this is where I should have put a disclaimer at the beginning of this, that anything I say here is probably about 80% right, if that. So please check with an estate planning attorney about this. But I would say that I think once I don't know what the time frame, if there's a defined time frame in a trust sale. In a probate sale, I believe once the administrator is appointed, you have a year to sell the property. I believe that can be extended to a year and a half in the event federal taxes are due. But again, this is the blind leading the blind at this point.
Sure. I guess I should rephrase it.
No. It's a good question. It's a longer process. That's why when you get appointed administrator at that point, then you're given authority to start figuring things out regarding the property. So it's a longer period that way. So
right.
I would say 12 to 18 months is usually the time frame. But again, speak with your estate planning attorney.
Right. Well, so. I know certainly from hearing of some of these properties that when you first get contacted, a lot of times it won't go to the market for 6-12 months before
right.
you're even able to finally get to that point.
Right.
So yeah, it certainly takes a lot longer. What would you say is one of the biggest mistakes, or not biggest mistakes, but most common mistakes that whether it's a trustee or executor or beneficiary that you see them coming across or making with this?
Hopefully, they need to surround themselves with an experienced team. So, have a really good attorney, whether it's a probate or trust, have an estate plan attorney that's very experienced in that field. And if you have someone there, you probably won't be making mistakes because they'll be really good at what they do that way. So I would say that if someone goes out and hires their best friend's uncle that maybe is in a different field or something like that, or a friend of a friend or something like that, I would say that's probably the biggest mistake. Make sure you have like a very experienced and just a thorough estate planning attorney that way. So.
Sure. Well, on that note, I guess what's the biggest piece of advice? Probably that, right? Surround yourself with knowledgeable people.
I mean, so the same thing that goes for your real estate professional. You want someone that's a little bit different, that has some experience. I probably wouldn't recommend like letting an agent whether it's a trust or probate sale, gaining this is their first like 1 or 3 or 4 experience sales that way. Everyone has to break into it, but you may not want to be their learning experience because there can be things that go wrong. But so you really, the biggest thing is hiring people that don't know what they're doing, because it's a slightly different process. So, making sure that you have a good estate planning attorney, a real estate professional, and that they're communicating pretty good, well together. So.
Sure. So what would be the first step if someone was put in the position where they're a trustee or beneficiary? What would be the first step that they would start the process with?
If it's a trust, they may already have like a estate planning attorney that put together that trust, not necessarily, but go out, speak with an attorney, find out, and then the same with a probate. Go out and right away, I would counsel with an estate planning attorney and figuring out what the next step is that way. So especially if you think that you're going to be appointed administrator, which gives you authority to handle the estate. So.
Sure. Okay. There's a lot of new regulations that always come up within real estate every year. Aside from regulation standpoint, have you seen the probate and trust sale process or the field as a whole evolve over time since you began doing this, 10, 15 years ago? Yeah.
So when I started it, when I started getting into it about 15 years ago, I would say that mainly the probate process has changed. I'm trying to think. I don't think the trust process has changed too much, but the probate process, definitely there was more court confirmations. Like right when I was getting into the industry about 17 years ago, I know that they were still fairly common. And then you had it's the Independent Administration of Estates Act, the IAEA, was put into place at some point, and that allowed a process that allowed you to notice the beneficiaries, the heirs of the estate. And so if someone had full authority, if a court granted someone, an administrator, full authority, they could do it they could go through that way. That was a streamlined process. You didn't have to go to a court. I think everyone's kind of a little intimidated by like having to go to court and having it confirmed, the sale confirmed that way. So this was an easier way, but it does require that the heirs are notified. So it's a little bit longer that way. So sure. and that's where like you really want the attorney and realtor to be communicating so everyone knows what's going on.
Sure. It's clearly a specialized field. I mean, there's, like I said at the beginning, a lot of nuances to it. Why does this process require such a specialized knowledge, and why is it so important to have experience in this, not someone that's, having their first trial run on one of these types of sales? Sure.
So again, you want to make sure that they have, if not a good relationship, a clear line of communication with the attorneys. Just like all real estate professionals aren't created equal, neither are attorneys that way, and how they communicate. So sometimes communication can be a little bit bumpy that way. I would just make sure that there's a defined timeline in the process. The biggest issue is that often a timeline's not communicated appropriately, and therefore the heirs have to be notified if there's a loan on the property. All of a sudden, people are like, "Wait a second, what?" heirs have to be noticed 18 days or something of that nature, and things go wrong that way. So I would say that like that's the biggest issue is just to understand that the process is a little bit different, and that those time frames can be extended. Often a lot of attorneys that I work with, they don't want to notice the heirs until all contingencies are removed. And again, people will think, oh yeah, the heirs have to be noticed, and you get in the contract, and we're like, and then the other agent's like, hey, well, when are you going to notice the heirs? And it's like, well, we're going to notice them. Didn't you read? We're going to notice them at the remove of all contingencies. And they're like, what? That's going to make it like a 45-day escrow. And you're like, yeah, it just has to be that way.
Right.
So like it's those type of things that come up that I would say that's why I developed my own advisory form to kind of put those timelines in place. So when an agent goes, wait, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, but you and your client signed it. So It's right here. It's an extra layer that way. So I would just think like you have to dot your I's and cross your T's just a little bit more in that sense.
Sure. Well, I know that there's probably a lot of people listening with further questions, maybe specific questions about their situation. What would be the best way for them to start this? First, reach out to maybe their attorney, or could they reach out to a trust and probate department or division?
Yeah, you know what? I'm sure they could. I would recommend it. I mean, if you're watching this video and you need an attorney, feel free to reach out to myself, Sean, SEAN, at LivXplore.com, and we can get you in a referral that way to make sure that that you're taken care of. But yeah, I would look up. It's probably always a good thing to if you're just totally starting and you don't know anyone or to talk to about referrals or anything like that, pick 2 or 3 people that look like they have good reviews out of the internet and have an interview with them to see if they think would be a good fit, just like anywhere.
Sure.
That way, and then kind of go from there. So
absolutely. And if you want to, I guess, educate yourself a little bit more, we have a very detailed blog with a lot of great information is there as well.
Yes, we have a very in-depth website on probate and trust sales. It's called protrustsales.com. So if you want to go there, you can go there, and there's some blogs that we've put up that kind of goes through the probate process, explains things. There's not a lot of legalese there. We're not attorneys, but it does explain. Gives you a little primer that way. And again, there are, if you need an attorney, we can certainly refer you on from there.
Absolutely. Well, cool. If anyone's listening that has further questions, please reach out, call, email, text, and we will certainly help point you in the right direction.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Please hit like and subscribe if you like this so you can hear future content. Thank you. Welcome to the LivXplore podcast. If you like what you hear, please hit like and subscribe.